A new Tacoma can make sense if you need the image, warranty, and fresh truck smell. But if you need a bed, all-weather grip, Honda reliability, and no giant payment, there is an older pickup that makes the math look silly. Around $9,000 buys a Ridgeline. Most Tacoma shoppers are too proud to test drive. Number 7. The Tacoma Payment Trap. The Tacoma is not the villain here. The payment is. Toyota builds a good truck, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. But when Toyota's own current pricing puts a new Tacoma starting around $32,000 before delivery, and common trims climb way past that, the math gets rough fast. A clean 2009 through 2014 Honda Ridgeline often sits around $7,000 to $12,000, with a $9,000 target usually showing 130,000 to 190,000 miles, somewhere, and enough life left if the records are right. That gap is not small. That is tires, insurance, tools, fuel, and years of no truck note. Tacoma buyers often pay for image, resale, off-road style, and the feeling of buying the obvious answer. The Ridgeline gets dismissed because it is unibody, has a short bed, and does not stand like a body on frame pickup. That is fair if you crawl rocks, tow heavy, or need clearance. But for real truck use like mulch, bicycles, dogs, hardware store runs, camping gear, appliances, and a small trailer, the Ridgeline changes the math. The weak points are not mysterious either. Rust recall history, timing belt service, VTM4 rear differential service, and warm transmission feel. Check the VIN with NHTSA or a Honda dealer, inspect the underbody, ask for timing belt records, and test the traction system before money changes hands. Buy it if your truck life is daily driving plus weekend work. Skip it if you need serious trail hardware. That is the point Tacoma shoppers miss. A truck is not cheaper because the badge feels safer. It is cheaper when the total cost after insurance, tires, repairs, and interest leaves cash in your account instead of pride in the driveway. That is why the question is not whether Tacoma is good. The question is whether your actual use justifies paying several times more. Next, the sweet spot is not any cheap Ridgeline. It is the right years, trims, and receipts. Number 6. The $9,000 Honda Ridgeline Sweet Spot. The sweet spot is not the cheapest Ridgeline online. It is the one with the right receipts. I would focus on 2009 through 2014 Honda Ridgeline RT, RTS, Sport, and clean older RTL trims. Earlier 2006 through 2008 trucks can be okay, but for this story I want the later refreshed years because they are easier to recommend and still cheap enough. Avoid any Ridgeline with missing corrosion recall status, no timing belt record after 105,000 miles, slipping transmission behavior, neglected VTM4 fluid, or a seller who says it is a Honda, so it does not need anything. Kelley Blue Book puts a 2011 RT around the low $9,000 fair purchase range, with resale around the low $8,000 area, while nicer RTL trims can run higher. In the real world, $7,000 to $12,000 is the zone, and the strongest $9,000 truck usually has 140,000 to 180,000 miles, clean title, working accessories, decent tires, and at least some service history. Mark, a home inspector, looks at a $9,200 Ridgeline RTS with 156,000 miles, then compares that to a new Tacoma payment. The truck only makes sense after he sees the belt and water pump invoice. That is the lesson. The badge does not beat paperwork. The 3.5-liter VTEC V6 and 5-speed automatic are supported by years of Honda shop knowledge, but the weak point is scheduled maintenance. Check oil before startup, watch for smoke after warm idle, hold the brake and shift from park to drive in reverse, and ask for belt and water pump proof. Buy it for SUV comfort with a bed. Walk away if receipts are missing. Do not chase the lowest posted price first. Chase the truck with a cold start, matching tire wear, steady temperature, clean title, and a seller who can name the last major service without digging through excuses. I also like trucks with boring interiors because clean cloth, working switches, and untouched wiring usually beat cheap leather hiding rough use. Next, the Drivetrain wins because it is boring in exactly the right way. Subscribe if you like truck advice based on payments, receipts, rust, fluids, and boring checks, not just badges people argue about online. Number 5. Why the drivetrain works. The drivetrain wins because it was not built to impress anyone at a stoplight. The 2009 through 2014 Ridgeline uses Honda's 3.5-liter VTEC V6, a 5-speed automatic, and VTM4 traction. Cars.com lists the 2009 with 250 horsepower, 247 pound-feet of torque, standard VTM4, and a 5,000-pound tow rating. That matters because we can be honest. This is not a low-range rock crawler, and it is not a heavy trailer truck. It is a practical all-weather pickup for the work most owners actually do. The V6 is naturally aspirated, so there is no turbo heat. The automatic is conventional, not a fancy dual clutch or CVT. The VTM4 rear differential gives traction help without pretending to be a trail rig. That keeps the ownership path simple, as long as fluids are handled. A higher mileage Ridgeline with belt, pump, transmission fluid, and rear differential records is often a better value than a lower mile one with a blank history. The market sees unibody and assumes fragile. I look at heat, fluid, and service pattern. The weak points are rear differential chatter from old fluid, timing belt age, cooling neglect, and delayed transmission engagement. Turn tight circles in a parking lot and listen for rear differential chatter. Drive uphill and feel for hunting or slipping. Smell the transmission fluid if accessible, and look for coolant residue around radiator seams and hoses. Buy it if you want easy driving, traction, and predictable Honda service. Skip it if you need low-range four-wheel drive or constant towing near the limit. That is where Honda service history helps. Many independent shops know this engine family from Pilots, Odysseys, Accords, and Acura models, so diagnosis does not require a specialist who treats an old truck like rare machinery. The ownership effect is fewer surprises. Fluid changes, belts, hoses, mounts, and plugs are ordinary maintenance, not exotic truck surgery. Next, the bed, trunk, tailgate, and cabin are where Tacoma shoppers miss the real trick. Number 4. The hidden utility. Tacoma buyers miss. The part Tacoma shoppers laugh at is the part Ridgeline owners use every week. The first-generation Ridgeline does not win bar arguments with stance, lift kits, or a long open bed. It wins when you are loading real life. Every 2009 through 2014 Ridgeline gives you a crew cab, composite bed, dual-action tailgate, lockable in-bed trunk, and the kind of ride that does not punish you when the bed is empty. A Tacoma is the better truck for off-road angles, aftermarket gear, and traditional frame strength. But at about $9,000, the Ridgeline gives covered storage, all-weather traction, and daily comfort that often costs far more in Tacoma listings. The independent rear suspension and unibody layout reduce the harsh unloaded bounce that beats up owners, dogs, tools, and groceries in older body on-frame trucks. That ownership effect matters because people keep comfortable vehicles longer and maintain them more willingly. Denise, a weekend gardener, picks an $8,900 Ridgeline Sport with 162,000 miles because the trunk keeps pruning tools dry, but she buys it only after checking for water and mildew inside that storage well. Weak points are trunk leaks, tailgate hardware wear, rear seat abuse, and aging electronics. Open and close the in-bed trunk. Check for water stains, swing, and drop the tailgate both ways. Fold the rear seat and inspect the cabin floor. Buy it if you carry tools, dogs, bikes, plants, camping gear, or groceries more than you tow. Walk away if your identity needs a traditional frame more than a useful design. That trunk is not a gimmick when you own the truck. It keeps jumper cables, straps, muddy boots, small tools, groceries, or wet gear out of the cab, locked away and away from weather. It also keeps the cabin cleaner, which matters if one vehicle has to be family car and work truck. Next, we get honest about what breaks, what it costs, and when a cheap truck becomes a money pit. If this kind of practical truck math saves you money, subscribe. We buy usefulness first and image last around here every time. Number 3. What breaks and what it costs. The Ridgeline does not punish maintenance. It punishes buyers who assume Honda means free. That is the mistake. A $9,000 Ridgeline works only if you leave room for immediate service. An $8,500 truck, needing a timing belt, water pump, tires, and rear differential fluid, can be worse than a $9,700 truck with those jobs already documented. Timing belt and water pump service commonly lands around $900 to $1,500, depending on shop, parts, and region. Rear differential service is much cheaper, but ignoring it can make the VTM4 system chatter and wear. Struts, motor mounts, radiator, alternator, power steering leaks, and tires are normal old vehicle costs. None of that should scare you. What should scare you is rust around the fuel tank mounting area, especially on salt state trucks covered by the corrosion recall. Cars.com recall data explains that road salt can corrode the frame mounting surface where the fuel tank bands attach, and Honda's recall number for that issue is LCD. That is not a cosmetic warning. That is a hard safety check. Ask for the timing belt invoice, read tire date codes, open the oil cap and look for sludge, and crawl underneath near the fuel tank mounts for heavy corrosion. Also check for wet power steering hoses and crusty coolant around the radiator. Buy it if you budget maintenance like an adult. Walk away if every dollar goes into the purchase price. The value is real, but it is not magic. A Ridgeline with records is a smart truck. A rusty one with no receipts is just deferred repair with a bed. The repair list should not scare an adult buyer. What scares me is a seller who spent money on wheels, tint, and stereo parts while ignoring brown coolant, cracked belts, old tires, and a missing timing receipt. Old Honda parts are not free, but they are predictable when the records are honest and the inspection is slow. Next is the exact inspection sequence that separates the smart $9,000 buy from the cheap one you leave behind. Number 2, the inspection that decides the deal. A Ridgeline inspection starts underneath, not behind the steering wheel. The shape makes people casual. They treat it like a crossover, glance at the seats, tap the radio, and forget that rust, belt service, and warm shifts decide the whole deal. A $9,000 Ridgeline is only of value when the inspection supports it. A $7,500 rusty truck with no records is not a bargain. It is a red flag with a tailgate. Start with the VIN, run it through NHTSA or call a Honda dealer and confirm corrosion recall status. Then crawl under the rear and inspect the fuel tank strap mounting areas, frame surfaces, rear suspension points, and any place road salt sits. Do not accept fresh black spray paint as proof of clean metal. Next, demand a cold start. If the truck is already warm when you arrive, ask why. Listen for accessory noise, watch the idle, and check for smoke. After that, drive at least 20 minutes. Hold the brake and shift from park to drive in reverse, feeling for delayed engagement. Turn tight circles in a parking lot and listen for VTM4 chatter. Drive uphill and watch for hunting or slipping. Open the bed trunk and check for water, mildew, or rust stains. Test air conditioning, power windows, locks, cruise, and the rear seat fold. Those are not luxury checks, they are bargaining checks. A broken accessory on a cheap truck is still money. Buy it if the seller allows a cold start, full test drive, VIN check, and underbody inspection. Walk away if the seller rushes you, hides the VIN, says records got lost, or insists all Ridgelines are reliable. Reliable platforms still need proof. The Tacoma payment looks wasteful only when this truck passes boring checks. Bring a flashlight, paper towels, and enough time to let the truck get fully warm. A quick spin around the block tells you almost nothing about a transmission, rear differential, or cooling system. If a seller refuses that time, the truck already answered your question. Next, number 1 decides who should actually buy the Ridgeline and who should let the Tacoma win. If this changes how you look at cheap trucks, subscribe. The best bargain is usually the one that passes boring checks first. Number 1, who should buy it and who should walk away. The Ridgeline wins only when you are honest about the job. I would buy a 2009 through 2014 Honda Ridgeline around $9,000. If it is a clean title, RT, RTS, Sport, or clean RTL, with 140,000 to 180,000 miles, timing belt proof, clean recall status, good tires, working V, TM4, no transmission hesitation, and no serious rust. That is the truck that makes a new Tacoma look like a waste of money for the right owner. Not every owner. The Ridgeline fails the emotional truck test. It has no aggressive stance, no low-range transfer case, no long open bed, no towering ground clearance, and no Tacoma badge. Good. That is why practical buyers still have a chance. Steve, a retired electrician, chooses a $9,000 Ridgeline with 171,000 miles and belt-proof instead of financing a new Tacoma because his real jobs are ladders, toolboxes, rain, hardware store runs, and helping his daughter move, not trail videos. That is the buyer. Homeowners, commuters, gardeners, cyclists, campers, dog owners, small job contractors, and anyone who needs a bed more often than a persona should look hard. The mechanical reason it works is not a mystery. You get a naturally aspirated Honda V6, conventional automatic, VTM4 traction, SUV-like ride, and real utility in a truck that usually was not abused like a rock crawler or diesel tow rig. That lighter life matters. Traditional trucks often get lifted, overloaded, slammed into trails, or bought by owners who use toughness as an excuse to skip maintenance. Many Ridgelines spent life hauling mulch, kids, bikes, luggage, and small trailers. The weak points still decide the deal. Rust, timing belt neglect, rear differential chatter, warm transmission behavior, water in the trunk, and missing records. Compare records against mileage, verify recall status, inspect underneath, test the trunk and tailgate, run the air conditioning, and make the VTM4 prove itself. Buy it if your truck life is real, practical, and mostly on pavement. Skip it. If you tow heavy, need a long bed, crawl rocks, or care more about image than usefulness. This is why the new Tacoma only wins for certain buyers. If you need factory warranty, true low-range hardware, more ground clearance, newer safety tech, or high resale pride, buy the Tacoma. Just admit you are paying for those things, not saving money. That honesty is the whole video. That is the fair comparison here in real life, period. The smart buy is not any Ridgeline. It is the exact one that passes the checks. Buyer roadmap. Shop 2009 through 2014. Honda Ridgeline first, especially RT, RTS, Sport, and clean RTL trims. The $9,000 truck usually has 140,000 to 180,000 miles. Clean title, working accessories, and maintenance proof. Do not focus on 2006 through 2008 unless price, records, and rust condition are excellent. Avoid any 2006 through 2014 truck with unresolved corrosion recall questions. Timing belt proof, water pump record, VIN recall status, underbody rust, warm transmission shifts, and VTM4. Rear differential behavior decide the deal. It suits homeowners, commuters, light haulers, gardeners, cyclists, campers, dog owners, and small job contractors. Skip it for serious off-road work, heavy towing, long bed needs, or buyers who want truck image more than usefulness. The Ridgeline only beats Tacoma math when the inspection confirms records, rust, fluids, and real use. Do not buy excuses. Buy proof before signing. Subscribe for calm, practical truck buying advice. Click the next video playing on your screen right now. It covers used trucks that look cheap until repairs expose them before purchase.